Welcome to our second Rubin live webinar. I appreciate everybody being here. Hello, Karen. Welcome back from Taft. Thank you for coming a second time. I appreciate everyone's time today. Picked a new set of topics today. We covered resumes and cover letters the first time. Now we're going to go into something that impacts all of us deeply right now, which is how to network from our houses, how to open doors while we are stuck in quarantine and stay-at-home orders, whatever you want to call it. We are at our computers, we're in our houses, and we cannot network and interact the way we are used to doing. So what can we do from our homes, from our couches, to open doors for ourselves and to teach students to do the same? We never know what opportunities we may need to go after once we come out of this fog that we're in, this lockdown that we're under. And so I appreciate your time, and we're going to cover a lot of good quality substantive topics today, just like before, looking at some examples together and learning as we go. So let me give, for the folks who are on the first time, you can just hang out for a moment. I want to introduce people to sort of who I am, what our company does for just a couple of minutes. So there's, just like I told students last time, giving context for the new folks, putting it all in perspective. Where does this information come from? So my name is Danny Rubin. I'm the founder of our company, which is called Rubin, R-U-B-I-N. I'm talking to you from Virginia Beach, Virginia, where we are based. And my background is a TV news reporter. I was a journalist for a CBS News TV station in Virginia, where I covered the good, bad, and ugly of local news. We all know what that looks like. And so I learned a lot of great skills in that time. Public speaking and talking to strangers, telling great stories, sticking to deadlines. And I took those skills, went to Washington, D.C., and I was a consultant at the national news level for NBC News, and in particular, a show called Meet the Press on NBC, providing guidance and show prep and research for a few years for Meet the Press. And if somebody, I'm not able to grab it right now, but if somebody can get to our YouTube page and paste the link to our resume cover letter webinar in the chat to everybody, that would be great. Otherwise, we'll send it around afterwards. I see some folks asking for it. I left the job in news consulting, went back to Virginia Beach, and have worked in public relations, which is a cousin of marketing and advertising, helping clients to learn how to effectively articulate who they are, why they matter in good times and bad. And so I've taken all of those skills, all of those experiences, package them up in a curriculum and guidance for students and young professionals to help us all write well and speak well to go after our own opportunities. The skills that journalists know by nature are the skills we should all be using to explore what's possible for ourselves out there in the world. And again, one more time for the folks who have just joined, and you're going to comment in the chat, please set it to all panelists and attendees. And then when you comment, everyone can see it. A little bit before my career, undergraduate degree from the University of Virginia in history, and a master's in journalism from the University of Maryland, College Park. So that is who I am and where the genesis of this information came from. Now let me share my screen. I want to point out, not there yet, here. Let me get my chat back up so I can see everybody. Okay, so you can see my screen. If you cannot, please tell me, but hopefully you can. This is the online program we're going to work out of today, and I want to show the new folks just a brief overview of what it is and how schools use our online platform, which is called Emerge, to teach students practical communication skills in the classroom, middle school, high school, and higher ed and adult education, versions for different use cases. So very briefly, in our program are 3 different books. These books are collections of templates, guides of writing and speaking examples. Some of you might have these books. We may have brushed past before at a conference, or you use it in the classroom. These are collections of how-tos for employability skills, for entrepreneurship skills, leadership and management skills. Collectively, over 300 writing and speaking examples for students to reference. We couple those first with the opportunity to earn digital badges. When students complete exercises in our program, they earn digital credentials, like an email etiquette badge, for instance, and a networking badge that they can affix to their resume or LinkedIn profile or portfolio to show employers and college admissions what they've gained. So our program is run through a variety of modules, and we're going to work out of one of our modules today. They're broken into several key topics. Email etiquette beginner, learning to write an effective email. I'll talk about that one in just a moment. Email etiquette advanced, learning to be a good communicator in our emails. Some life skill exercises like handshaking and learning to write your name in cursive. Phone etiquette exercises like leaving a voicemail or returning someone's missed call. A series of employability skill exercises. We're going to cover some inside this unit today. Networking mastery. We also cover resumes and cover letters, as we already discussed 2 weeks ago. Our special approach is to help students tell stories of success in their cover letters. And I know many of you really grasped onto that topic when we talked about it 2 weeks ago. It's a fresh idea of how to promote ourselves, and it is in that webinar that Peggy was kind enough to share with everybody. We go in depth in that cover letter approach. Learning to write emails for internships and jobs effectively. Learning to make a LinkedIn profile and send LinkedIn networking requests. Job interview preparation skills. We also cover entrepreneurship. Learning to develop a business idea. Writing skills for sales pitches. Writing skills for your company's website. Public relations, like writing a press release. And fundraising writing, like writing a grant application and a Kickstarter page. And lastly, we cover writing skills and speaking skills for leadership. Learning to write effectively as a manager, communicating with your clients, communicating through project management with your own team, public speaking training, learning to write reports and summaries for your boss, and exercises for on-campus student leaders who are learning to be the face of that student organization. So there are lots of different topics in our program, and we're going to just focus in on one particular one today, which is networking. I do want to point out before we hop into that, and I made the same offer to the folks on the first webinar, so let me say it one more time. If you are looking right now for some distance learning material to help you get through these crazy weeks that we are in, I want to offer to anyone interested a free email etiquette lesson plan. Hopefully you can see this slide okay. Okay. So this is an entire lesson plan. Takes about a week to do, 6 to 8 hours. Take a second and read down. You'll see we are teaching students how to construct an email, useful at any age, at any stage of their learning or development. Critical that they know, especially now in a distance learning mode, that they learn how to formulate an email effectively to ask for or say what they need to know. And when they complete this unit, they earn an email etiquette digital badge, which, as I mentioned, they can share on their resume or portfolio anywhere they want. It's a JPEG image to show proof of what they achieved. One quick example of how this has been used in the classroom. This is a high school example, although it's relevant for college as well and middle school. It's done in a basic way. A high school business class, like a mock business, used this unit on email etiquette to send emails to Major League Baseball and NBA executives to request a promotional night of their company's product, which are made from hemp. They use these lessons to formulate a real email that went out in the real world to get a real answer about a promotional night, led by CTE teacher, career and tech ed teacher, and virtual enterprises international advisor, Brian Devitt. So it really helps students to take learning an email, to write an email is a great skill for the real world. So many ways to apply it. This is one example. So if you are interested, and let me close this for one moment so I can see the chat again. I'll leave it on the screen like that. Give me 1 second. If you are interested, and the chat has gone away for me, I want you to type interested in the chat with your email address. I said this to the folks before. I'll give you this email etiquette lesson plan to use. There's no charge. The only request is a brief phone call to help you walk through it so you understand what you have. And then I can give you the lesson plan and you can often run with it and help fill some important class time. So type interested in the chat with your name, with your email address so we can locate you. And then we'll provide that lesson plan afterwards. The last thing I want to mention is we're going to do a third webinar. Haven't put it out yet over email, but it will be coming. And it's going to be called Expert Communication Skills for Student Leaders. It's going to be on Thursday, April 23rd, same time as now. The link to register is coming soon, but you feel free to put it on your calendar, bookmark it. We'll send out the information soon, but it's going to be helping student leaders to communicate effectively from home once they're back on campus just practical knowledge for student leaders. All right. So those are the things that I wanted to make sure I touched upon. Let me hop back to the, okay. Thank you for those who shared their email addresses. I was not able to see the chat the last few minutes. I want to share my screen again and keep that chat in front of me so I can see all of you. Give me one moment. Thanks for everybody who, and if you already requested these samples before, it's the same thing again. Don't worry about doing it a second time. It's for new folks. If you need some material for the end of the year, this will help fill some time and teach a valuable skill relevant for virtual learning. Okay, let me go back to the program, try to get the chat up again. There it is. All right, now I'm in business. Okay, so let's go into what we talked about today, which is, or what we promised on the webinar, which is networking skills while we're stuck at home. Okay, and yeah, thank you everybody who said interested. We'll be in touch on all that in the days after the webinar. So let's talk about what we are going to cover. Okay, we're going to cover networking emails, how to set up a networking conversation, how to say thank you after that conversation. We're then going to cover the elements that make up a great handwritten thank you note, which you can do from home because the postal service is still running, and there's huge value in handwritten notes. And then we're going to finally talk about how to hold meaningful face-to-face conversations, even through Zoom. It has the same relevance if we learn the proper techniques to make a great impression on somebody. Okay, so let's go into our networking unit. Okay, and we're going to just jump over to the screen. And the first thing I want to show everybody, let me hide my little image here. We're going to focus on one particular topic that is relevant for all topics here, for really all networking conversations, but this is a good starting point, is how to network with alumni from your school. I just turned on a readability function in our program so that we can focus on certain sections and not others. Let's talk about reaching out to alumni from our school, for instance. Okay? So let's talk about how do we connect with people who have gone to our school. That's a great place to start because those people have an instant connection and bond with us because we went to the same educational institution. And there's that connection right away. There's that trust right away. Let's talk about what that email could look like to somebody from our school to set up a potential conversation about opportunities, to learn about them, whatever the case. Let's learn about the most effective way to reach out to somebody we may not know at all, okay? Let's talk about that subject line. This is maybe the most important part. In fact, it is, because if the subject line isn't strong, the message may be overlooked. I'm going to teach you a critical strategy here for subject line creation, and it's the last 3 words. Needs your advice. When we are reaching out to people, and even if in the back of our minds we want a job opportunity or an internship opportunity, we do not want to come to somebody and ask for a request or favor for them to do something for us. We want to ask for their wisdom. When you ask somebody for their wisdom, you are much more likely to land a response because it is a harmless way to say, just teach me what you know. I'm not coming around looking for a handout or for you to bend over backwards for me. I want you to tell me all the things that you know that would make me better. It is a great way to open a door. And I also want to point out one other thing. We notice that we use the word alumni here. And down here, I say you're going to put the name of your school or high school, for in high school, college, university, student / alumnus or alumna. Let me point this out very quickly. Anybody else? Anybody in the chat ever take Latin in high school, or maybe you're taking Latin right now? Here's a quick Latin lesson. I took 5 years of it, and this is probably all I remember. Okay, alumni is the plural. Okay, we talk about alumni being multiple people from a school. When we're talking about a singular person, even yourself, maybe you graduate from somewhere, you are an alumnus as a male or an alumna as a female. Okay, and if you're not comfortable sharing a gender or choosing a gender, you can say alum. But I want it to be clear, when you write to somebody, let's say, hey, I went to so-and-so school and so did you. You say, I'm an alumnus from your particular school. You're not an alumni. Tricia says, you took 5 years of Latin. I did take 5 years of Latin. Don't ask me why. but I did it, and here I am sharing with you a Latin lesson. So I don't want to hang on that too much, but it's critical because somebody might know the difference out there in the world. You're not an alumni, you're an alumnus or an alumna, and it makes a big difference. The little things matter. Thank you, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, oh, you got to share that with everybody. Please put all panelists and attendees, and then share that with the group. Thank you very much for filling that in. Okay, so let's talk about the email. First, we say, I need your advice. Then we say, my name is, and you put your year in school, or that you're a recent grad, or an alumnus or alumna from the name of the high school or the university, okay? And then you're going to explain to the person how you found them. Again, we're all about context, right? We are all about telling people, like, where did I just come from? I just dropped into your world. I'm saying, in this case, I found you in the university's alumni database, or maybe so-and-so gave me your name. Give them context. How did you get to them? And then here is the key. Watch closely. We're not just going to say, can you help me? Can I learn from you? We're going to take it one step further. I'm interested in the specific industry field, like, maybe the construction field. Okay. And I see that's the kind of work you do. In particular, I would like to learn more about your experience with, and here we go. We're going to name a specific project from their LinkedIn profile or company website and why you find it compelling. Notice what we're doing here. I'm interested in learning more about your experience with the recent high-rise bridge your team built in Western New York. That's the kind of large-scale construction I hope to work on. What did we do there? Can one of the students type in the chat and tell me a piece of detail from that sentence? What kind of detail did I provide that proved I took some time to learn about the person before I wrote to that person? Can someone share a detail they noticed in that sentence, in that second line? Really? That's where it is. Who can show me? I want this to stick. This is so important. High-rise bridge. That's right. Now, would I have known about the high-rise bridge if I didn't go to their website or LinkedIn page? Absolutely not. I would have just said something generic like, wow, you have such an amazing career. Can I learn from you? But people can smell out what's real and what's fake very quickly. And we want someone to say, wow, they really did take some time to get to know who I am. And they took so much time, they mentioned it by name in the email. And then they mentioned it to me. So now I know they're very interested in my career because they can actually speak knowledgeably about my career. This exercise, and for the teachers watching, helping students do this, it only takes a few moments to send a student to a company website or a LinkedIn profile or a website bio and have the students read and learn and internalize, what did this person do? Pluck out one detail. That's all you have to do. One detail, drop it into the email. It can be the difference between an email not being answered and an email being responded to quickly, because the person is so flattered that a young person would take the time to speak in such detail about somebody else. I want you to really understand what we're doing here, because this strategy you can take and apply to any conversation that you will ever start in your life, over email or even in person if you have a chance to look them up beforehand. It will make such an impact on that other person, and you will change their expectations in seconds, and they will respect you more, and it will lead to more opportunities. We talked a lot about this in the previous webinar too. We want to give and give and give in this world. We want to keep putting good stuff out there, show that we care about other people. That in turn will make them want to care about us. We cannot go out in the world and say, what are you going to do for me? What are you going to do for me? We have to first show we know how to learn and study and care about others. That is a basic human instinct that we need to think about in terms of networking. And you can do this from your house, from your couch, from your laptop right now when the webinar concludes. Take this strategy and run with it. It will help you open doors. And thank you for those who are still typing interested. As a reminder, this is to provide a free 1-week email etiquette lesson plan to help you with distance learning. If you say interested in your email, we'll send that over in the coming days. Appreciate the interest from everybody. Okay. Are there any quick questions on this type of message? I should have said this is the last line. Please let me know if you have time for a brief phone call or in-person meeting. Thanks so much. But we covered what we want to cover. Ask for advice, put yourself in context, explain what you're trying to do, and give examples about the other person. That is a great way to open a door in a selfless, non-threatening, I'm not coming around looking for a favor kind of way. All right, if there are no questions, I want to keep us moving and keep us on time. So let's go over, let's say you are successful. You send that email, you have a conversation, and now you're on the other side. The conversation has concluded. What comes after the conversation? What should you do next? Can I have a student tell me, what do you think we do after that conversation? The person was really great, offered to open a door for us. What do we do next with that person? Who can tell me? That's right. And Swathi, remember, for everybody, please change your setting to all panelists and attendees, and then everybody can see it. That's right. Zara says, follow up with a thank you. So did Swathi. She gets credit. She was first, but it just came to me. So we send a thank you note. Let's talk about 2 ways to do that, okay? Let's talk about the thank you note email first. And let me get us 1 second so I can do the shading tool again. 1 moment. Come on back down. All right. Let's talk about that thank you email. All right. The subject line, thanks again for the meeting or for the phone call or for the Zoom chat, whatever it was. All right. Now, in this program, in Emerge, and what we teach, it's all about being special, going the extra yard. Instead of, even you might think just sending a thank you email alone is enough, just saying thanks is enough. There could be other people saying thanks, and your thanks has to be better than theirs. Okay, you have to always be 1 step ahead and a better communicator than the next person. And this is how we do it. Okay, thank you again for meeting with me earlier today or yesterday at place where you met, in this case, through Zoom or on the phone. Let me make 1 note about this. You need to send this thank you quickly, within 24 hours. Time is precious in relationships. Don't send it 5 days later, a week later, send it immediately. Keep the momentum and energy from your conversation. So send it quickly. I appreciate your time and the advice you passed along. And then here's another key, something that people don't think about, going that next step. Give a quick piece of advice that the person told you and tell it back to them. You're 100% correct about how I should explore business opportunities in the city's tech sector. I had not considered that route before, but I will now. What are we doing? We're proving, 1, that we're good listeners, and we're, again, showing the person that their advice is so smart that we're going to repeat it back to them because we remembered it and it stuck with us. 1 more way to say, I value who you are. I think you know so much about the space that I want to understand. I'm going to repeat your advice back to you. Make them feel special 1 further time. And then 1 line about the other person's world. We're going to talk about learning about other people in just a moment. In this case, and I can tell from our conversation, you're excited about Acme Corporation and what's on tap for the company next year. So we're going to say, here's some advice that you told me that stuck with me, and here's 1 thing that I'm hoping for you. Okay, so we're just giving and we're giving and we're giving first. Because what we're doing here is we are building a relationship. And your teachers will tell you, relationships take time. They do not happen overnight. Big opportunities do not happen overnight. And sometimes you have to really get to know people for a while before something will materialize or become something tangible for your career. You are building a relationship, building trust, and showing you're somebody worth dealing with. Okay? Now, then we go into sort of, where does the conversation go next? If they offer to pass along your resume, say I've attached it here, please feel free to copy me on any emails, CC me, and I'm happy to follow up myself. Or let's say you don't need a job. You want to end with some other idea. For instance, yes, I'd be happy to drop by your office and meet the team. I think there may be ways we can all work together on an upcoming campaign. Whatever's next in your conversation goes right there. If it's an opportunity, if it's a follow-up conversation, if it's somebody else they want to connect you to, whatever it is, first you say, your advice was great, here it is. I hope the best for you. And then here's whatever comes next. Thanks again, have a great day. And then you wait for a response. And if there is no response, in either email, I should say, you have every right, give it a day, maybe 48 hours, follow up with I want to make sure you saw my first email. Thank you so much. I hope we can connect. Do not let it drop just because they didn't answer you the first time. People are busy. They might miss something that they intended to respond to. Don't take a non-answer the first time as a rejection. You need to fight for yourself at every age and stage of your life, of our lives. And never let that first non-answer or quiet keep you from pushing for yourself. You have every right to follow up, at least that second time. And if it really matters, see if you can find a phone number. Not so easy today while we're all in quarantine on cell phones, but in in an office setting, look hard for a phone number. Don't be afraid to call somebody. Okay? So this is the approach for reaching out to start the conversation and saying thank you afterwards. Now, let's talk about one other theme. Let's say that this is a big deal. This is an important person, could open a huge door for you, and you want to go from an email, and you can send that thank you email. That should always go out quickly, but you also want to layer on top a handwritten note that goes in the mail and comes to them at their place of business or maybe their house. We may not have home addresses right now, but you could ask for their address at the end of your call. Say, I want to send you a thank you note, and they'll give you the address. Or if you have the address available, you can just send it. And let me talk for just a moment about the best practices for a handwritten note. I want to cover that too and answer any questions on the writing side of networking, and then we'll talk about some face-to-face. Let's talk about the general rules of a proper letter. This is all information coming out of our blue ebook called Wait, How Do I Write This Email? We have a chapter on handwritten notes as well. And let's talk about some best practices for how to construct that letter. And maybe some students have never written one before. This is an opportunity to learn and maybe practice one while you're home. So if the note opens vertically, you're going to write on the bottom half of the note. If it's horizontally, you're going to write on the right side. You're also going to put the month and day in the upper right-hand corner. Put a date on this so the person knows when you wrote it, especially if you write it the day of your conversation. They'll see that you wrote that note right after you talk to them. Extra impressive. I'm going to give you some advice, Richard, on why you said your handwriting isn't so good. Let me give you a strategy for making sure your handwriting looks good while you're writing it with your hands, okay? With your hand. You're going to take your time, make sure each word is legible. And to do that, here's what you're going to do. You're going to type the note first on your computer. You're going to just type it in a Word doc or in a notepad somewhere and kind of work out what you want to say. Again, reiterate the advice they shared with you. Make it similar to the email you sent them. Make it personal. Show them how much you value their advice. But once you have it properly written in your computer, then refer to your computer and write it in hand while you're looking at the words you already typed. When you do it that way, you won't make mistakes, have to cross out words. You'll be writing exactly what you type, so the odds of making a mistake are far less. Okay, so use the computer first, get to a spot where you're comfortable, and then write it down. Lastly, use blue or black ink. Do not use purple, pink, orange. Blue or black is most professional. And you want to estimate the length as you're typing it, so when you write it, you'll be able to fit it all, and you won't run out of space, okay? Write the address legibly on the envelope so the mail carrier can deliver the note without any trouble, okay? So these are the general ground rules, and this will be saved in the recording of the webinar. You can look back on this later. But I always want to encourage students and teachers, everybody, if it means enough to you, this relationship is significant enough, take the extra step and send that handwritten note and make it just as personalized as that email. Okay? All right. Now, what I would like to do is hop over to, Sherry says, can you use regular paper? Does it need to be a note card? You can use regular paper too. I recognize right now you may not have thank you notes. You don't want to go to the pharmacy and get them. You'd rather stay inside. Totally get it. You can use paper. It's not about what it's written on. It's about the gesture itself. Okay? So whatever you have in front of you, use what you have. But don't miss an opportunity to impress somebody by being so thorough and going further than they would have ever expected you to go. Okay, these are the moments that make people never forget you. And I want all of these tactics today to help you to never be forgotten and say that person was special. That's what we want them to always say about you. And these types of tactics will help you do that. All right, let's switch our gears now to networking face-to-face, virtually or in person. Either way, I want to talk about some strategies that will help you to look your best and act your best in these networking environments where we're meeting new people. I'm going to attempt to play a video for you. I'm going to let it run and keep the chat up, and I want someone to tell me that they can hear it. And as long as you can hear it, I'm going to make it full screen and we'll watch the whole thing. This is an example which I narrate you through, showing the wrong and right way to hold a networking conversation and how to be a good listener in those moments. We're going to watch it and then talk about it at the end. It's a 2-minute video. Here we go.
My name is Danny Rubin, the founder of Rubin Education. So many times in our lives, we come face to face with somebody new and we start a conversation. And what comes next? What should we say to somebody new to win their respect and show that we care about what that person is doing in his or her life? Let's watch a scenario play out with two people who meet for the very first time.
Hey, good to see you. I'm Esmel Meeks.
Hi, Kevin O'Day.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
What do you do for work?
I'm a realtor. I help people buy and sell homes.
Awesome. How was your week?
This week has been absolutely terrible. I've had the roughest week I've had in a long time.
My week has been terrible. Let me tell you about it.
Oh, okay.
My train was 5 minutes late, which made me 5 minutes late for a meeting. And I get back home, my car won't start. So then I'm 5 minutes late for a date with my girlfriend. And my girlfriend's all mad at me because I'm late for dinner.
Oh, wow. That does sound
And then we get back home, we didn't take the dog out, and the dog stole the carpet. So my week was terrible.
Yeah, that sounds tough. So I'm sorry, man. Yeah, that's really tough.
Anyways, tell me about your week.
Okay, did you see Kevin's face during that networking exchange? Did he look unhappy to you, a little disappointed? That's because Esmel took the conversation away from Kevin and hogged the moment and had the spotlight. When Kevin instead wanted to share about his week, Esmel instead talked about his. The best networkers let other people talk and have the floor, and they listen. Let's see that scenario one more time and see how Kevin reacts now.
Hey, I'm Esmel Meeks.
Hi, Kevin O'Day. Nice to meet you.
Very good to meet you. What do you do for work, Kevin?
I'm a realtor. I help people buy and sell homes.
Awesome. How was your week?
You know what, Esmel? I'm glad you asked. It's been a really tough week.
Okay.
Actually.
I'm sorry to hear that. What happened?
Well, that's disappointing. I think the video may have frozen, which is unfortunate. Let me see if I can get it.
Clients entrust me with their homes and with the journey of buying and selling a home. And I had these clients that arrived from out of town. They came in a little late. We went to go see a home they were really in love with, and it was filled with water. And so they looked to me for an answer. I didn't have one for them. So it's been just a really rough week overall. I've had to take it. I've been very emotional about it, and I'm just not sure what to do next.
I'm so sorry to hear that, Kevin.
I appreciate that.
All right, we'll stop it there. So, Kathy McConnell made a mention to me directly. There's no social distancing going on here. Yeah, I get that. This was made well before the global pandemic that we're living in. But I think you all understand what we're getting at here. And this is a video designed to show students before working on these skills, which is when you meet somebody for the first time, we want to be good listeners. Let them talk. Let them have the floor. Get to know who they are before we launch into all about us. We don't want to hold that moment, but because when we ask people questions and we let them have the opportunity to share, they feel more valued, and actually in a funny way, they start to respect us more because we've shown that we care about who they are first. It is a critical lesson to learn in networking. The first few minutes, get to know somebody else, spend time in their world. So the question is, how do we do that? How do we ask those kinds of questions? So in our program, we have another tab here called Reference. And let me get the my little reading tool out again. One moment. Ooh, there. Okay. We have what we call the 6 most powerful words in networking. Let me get my chat back up. And those are who, what, when, where, why, and how. And we say that because the best words in networking are question words. They're words that elicit responses from other people, because when they talk, they feel special and important, and they think more highly of us. So on this page, we have some sample questions. Who, like for instance, who are some of your clients? As the who. What kind of projects are you working on? When did you decide to focus on that aspect of your career? Yes, and Mary Lynn actually used this strategy with her 6th, 7th, and 8th graders this past school year, which is wonderful. So it works even at that age to teach them how to think about other people first. It's so important as a life skill. Where do you go most often for work? Do you travel? Why did you decide to pursue a master's degree? Any one of these questions could help somebody to talk more about themselves, and then they feel more important and more emboldened by interacting with you. So for teachers, this is a simple activity you can take right out of this webinar right now. And maybe a bit challenging right now through virtual learning. You can try it through Zoom if you want, or Google Meet, or when you're back in the classroom in the summer, in the fall, whenever that day comes. Put students into pairs and have each person for 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, one person asks questions and lets the other person answer. And they use these 6 most powerful words. So if the student said, I just had the toughest test of my life, the student says, what was the test about, or why was it hard? Instead of saying, I had a really tough test too, let me tell you about my test, they say, tell me why yours was hard. So and then they, for 3 to 4 minutes, they ask questions and they switch roles and do it the other way. So they both have a chance to ask and answer questions, and they come back to the center and you have a discussion about this. It is an easy exercise that students can do in 15 minutes, and they can take this skill and apply it anytime they meet new people the rest of their lives, from 6th grade all the way through. So please hang on to this lesson. Refer back to, yeah, Mary Lynn gave them a small card with the 6 words. That's a great idea. Great idea. So feel free to refer to this webinar when you're ready to put this kind of thing into practice and say, what was that networking exercise that he suggested we do? It's called the 6 most powerful words. And it helps students to not only be more confident, but they become active listeners, and they learn the power of building relationships, which is such an important life skill. The sooner we learn it, the more successful we are going to be. Okay? Let's see, I think that's, yes. And if anybody has any experience, I meant to ask this, I jumped, I'm gonna cover 2 things here as we wrap up. Does anybody have experience with the power of a handwritten note or the power of a networking conversation? Maybe some of the educators in the group, somebody who's been out in the work world a bit. Do you have any experience where either of those things, writing a handwritten note or being a good listener in conversation, has helped you to open a door and advance yourself? I want students to see that these strategies do work, they do matter, and they have real life implication for all of us. So as I'm wrapping up and we're kind of getting to a Q&A, if you have anything to share in the chat, I'd love to see it. Okay. Eliada says, can you talk more about being a good listener and those interpersonal skills? Well, as I mentioned, great networking starts with being a good listener first. And we have to let people talk, because then we can react to what they're telling us. We can direct the conversation where they want it to go because we're letting them drive the bus. Okay? Swathi says it's a human strategy. We all need to be good listeners. And the problem is, the challenge for educators today is that we're in this social media era where we get a little caught up in ourselves and we don't think about other people. We think about what we can provide, what we can do, what makes us special, which we should share that, but we should also be thinking about others in equal measure. So this exercise allows us to think about others in that way. Richard said, my favorite handwritten note from someone I hired 25 years ago impressed the heck out of me. It was just so perfect. Not surprising, she was one of the best, if not the best, of 100 folks that worked for or with me. That's exactly right. It speaks to our character. If we are willing to go the extra mile in networking conversations and thank you notes, it shows how we would be in the job. And we want people to think of us in that way. If I hired that person, if I picked that person, this is the kind of high quality person I'm going to get. Okay, so it speaks to who you are. All right, so I want to keep us on time and save time for some additional questions around these themes or others. So let me just mention once again, for the folks who may have joined halfway through, if you are interested in this email etiquette lesson plan, a 1-week lesson plan teaching students how to write an effective email, please type interested in the chat with your email address. We will be in touch to provide that to you in the coming days to help with the distance learning. We want to just keep putting good stuff out to help us get through these crazy days. And also for those who may have missed it, We have we're going to do a third webinar in the series to finish out the month of April. It's going to be called Expert Communication Skills for Student Leaders. We do a lot in our program on communication for student-related circumstances and activities around leadership. So it'll be Thursday, April 23rd, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific. We will send the link out over email in the coming days, but please feel free to put this on your calendar now so you block out the time. We'd love to have you back a third time. An entirely different set of topics this time around, helping students become effective leaders on campus or even while they're at home, helping to manage their organization from afar. Okay, so let me hop back to our lesson plan area for one more time. And I want to see if there's any other questions. Oh, hi, Kathy from George Mason. She's been a wonderful support and help using this material with her George Mason students the last year. Let's see, one of my interns sent a personal thank you to president of the company she did an internship with. President made the note, a PDF, sent it to the senior executive team. Wow, does that not say it all? Because these types of moments are so rare that when they happen, people want to frame them. This is the opportunity for every student listening. Think about this as your opportunity. People do not expect students to do this, especially not today, in this day and age with technology. So when you do something like this, you will never be forgotten. At a minimum, you'll probably be selected, in the best case, for whatever you're going after, because it's just unusual. And I want you to be unusual. I want you to be unconventional. I want people to say, I've talked to a lot of young people for this opportunity, but only one of them really stuck out to me. And I want that to be you. And the way you do that is through these tactics. Jennifer says, I've been on hiring committees where the final decision came down to 2 candidates with the same skills. And the committee decided on the candidate who went the extra mile and sent us the personal note. There you go. Don't just take it from me. These are educators. Kathy's at George Mason, Jennifer at Albion. These are, higher ed institutions. They are out there in the world and they're seeing it just the same way. And I know some of this seems like obvious, right? Oh, well, of course, that would be an obvious thing to do. But what I hope you see today is learning the tactics to make these obvious scenarios even more impactful by the words we use, the detail we include, the thoughtfulness that we add to our messaging. Does anybody have any other questions around networking, especially while we're at home? I know this is a new territory for all of us. Any questions around virtual conversations? Anything around communicating as a group virtually? I'm happy to spend our final few minutes talking about those themes as well. I think that it's really interesting right now, and it's new for all of us being put into this situation where this is our only option. So if there's any final questions or thoughts, I want to keep us on time and end soon, but I always like to make sure we leave time for questions. Let's see with some other comments here. I've saved, Nathan sent it to me. I'll read it to you. I've saved every handwritten note in a file folder titled Why I Teach, and look at them after I've had a rough day. Love it. I save all the handwritten notes I've received too. I should have brought it down with me. I have a tack board with all the handwritten notes I've received. Yes, so Swati says, how to reach an anonymous person that we want to apply for an organization. So, great question. What I would do, as we talked about for that alumni email, is look up, if we don't know the person, and let's say we're sending it to like the company at large, if that's what you're asking for, here's the approach. And it's the same thing, okay? We are going to look up that company. And in that email, we're going to explain in the email a particular project the company completed in which we found notable. I meant to ask this question earlier and I came back to it now. For the students here, let me ask a quick question, a final question. It's important that we get this hammered out. And like Swati's question, if you want to learn about a company and their recent achievements and you go to their website, what pages would you look at? Where would you search on their website to find what they are most proud of? Can somebody type in the chat where you would go? What are some of the page titles? I want to really help us understand. Okay, no, Eleanor sent it to me, so she didn't give it all away. She gave a good answer. The other answers are, you're in the ballpark, but there's a better page than About Us, okay? Because About Us, a company could write the About Us page in 1997 and not updated again. Happens all the time. So where's the latest and greatest? A couple people have written it, but only to me. So we still don't know. I'll tell you. It's press releases. Okay, well, what are press releases? That's where companies put their big announcements, their big achievements, their latest partnership, their biggest project. Okay, we want to show that we've read about something they've done and we're excited about it. We speak about it in detail. We name the project, we name the success, just like that high-rise bridge in Western New York. We name it by name. Press releases are also pages like news, latest news, a blog. Look on those pages. Find something they've done recently. Read it all the way through. Don't just skim it. Read it. And then take the basics of it, the big achievement, and put it in your email. I was reading, and this is great for internships too. Please listen closely. Anybody in here who wants a summer internship, do not write the company and say, I'm a student at so-and-so, can I intern for you? You have to add, I was on your website. I was on your website. I read about Project X. I found it notable because of this reason. Please do that. Do not be just another email in the employer's inbox that says, can I intern? You have to give first. You have to be thoughtful. You have to do your homework first. Then that email and that door is opened. Please listen to me carefully. It will be just another email you send that goes into a black hole in the inbox that is not returned because it wasn't special and you didn't give first. Please learn to go to the website first. Practice this today. Go to a company where you want to intern this summer. Go to their website, go to press releases, go to their blog and read. Practice this skill. Practice writing a couple of sentences about that company into an email you will send. This technique might change your whole life because that email could be answered and it could change everything about your opportunity versus saying, I don't have time for this person. They just want a handout. I don't want to talk to them. You talk about them first, suddenly things are different. Okay? It is such a difference maker. And when this works for you, please write me and tell me because I want to know. All right? Any last questions or thoughts? I appreciate everybody's time and attention. A few more thoughts down here. Thank you so much for everybody being here. Please make some time to come back around in 2 weeks. We'll do it again for student leaders in communication. And if you have any other questions, you can send a note in the emails you've been receiving around our webinar today, and we'll keep talking. And for those who requested the lesson plan, we'll be in touch on that real soon. Oh, I saw one other thing. Oh, let me answer this one final question. Somebody posed, how can we best connect with leaders we want to engage with are distracted with a crisis like COVID, but you still want your shot? Same approach. Talk about them, talk about their achievements, be specific in your outreach. You can cut through any noise and havoc by being authentic and genuine. All right. Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.